Undercovered, because some stories just need to be told. Others told more. A few told more fully. Or perhaps in a different way, if not in another light. Welcome to Conversation about some of the stuff that's just undercovered.
This is Undercovered, the podcast with Bing Kimpo.
Archbishop, much has been made of a recently begun process. Pope Francis is inviting the entire church to reflect on a theme that is decisive for its life and mission. And I quote, "It is precisely this path of synodality which God expects of the church of the third millennium." Now, synodality, according to the Vatican's Secretariat of the Synod, and I quote, refers to the involvement and participation of the whole people of God in the life and mission of the church. Archbishop, please tell us about synodality in the context of the Catholic Church in the Philippines. Ano po ba ito, and how do we walk further down this path of synodality?
I would begin by saying this is not new. The Vatican also, in these recent days, has described the synod, not synodality, but the synod, and of course implying the spirit of synodality as ancient in its origin, ancient, but new, modern in its configuration, in its institution. What do you mean by that now? This way of bishops gathering with the Holy Father, around the Holy Father, convened by the Holy Father, has been done in very ancient times. It is a constant feature of the church, in a way, constant. But when we say it is modern, it was from the experience of something very synodal, which is the Second Vatican Council, 1962 to 1965. In 1965, Pope Paul VI established the Synod of Bishops. That is why it's modern. This current shape talaga, Bing, current shape is modern. So, ancient in its inspiration, in its tradition, very ancient. And modern, this one now is modern in its configuration. Bing, if it is an assembly, it is a meeting, it's a conference, why not call it that way? That ancient name carries with it a new nuance that is very important, which you could not get in the word assembly or in a word meeting. Talagang beautiful yan. That's why they keep the word Synod of Bishops. I think you know this, Bing. It comes from two Englishized na, but two Greek words. Syn, the syn is a Greek word meaning together, united, kasama, together. That's why we have synchronized swimming, syn. You synchronize your watches, syn. Or synthesis. Very easy na. So yung word na syn is together, kasama. But syn, odo, silent H sa Greek, hodos, silent H, odos, Bing. Sa car, may odometer. Di ba? Odometer. The measurement of the travel, how many kilometers na ang odometer ang na-travel. So, synodos, two key concepts, together and travel. So, when a synod is called, it is together, we travel together. And that is important for the church. Diba, we always say, we are a pilgrim church. We are a journeying church. And there's no Synod of Bishops, true synod, in the understanding of the church without the Holy Father. It is there. He's the vicar of Christ, the shepherd of the universal church. The bishops are there together with the successor Peter, so that they will be in one mind and one heart as the church travels through history towards the fulfillment of the kingdom. So that is why synodality is in the very essence of the church being. It is his, andiyan sa genes niya. So, she becomes a weak church pag hindi siya synodality ang style. Okay? Even, just an example, the Eucharist is in a sense, can be described as very synodal. Jesus eating with us since 1967, okay, the bishops will gather with the Holy Father in a synodal mode to discuss something like family life, okay, or new evangelization. But ang style ng sharing on new evangelization is synodal, sharing, listening. On youth, the very recent one, on youth. Now, this one called the 16th Ordinary Assembly of the Synod of Bishops, is a synod on synod, meaning it's a synodal way of reflecting on what is synod. The process itself is the topic. Very reflective. A synod on the synod itself. Because that is essential. And then that's the way how the church walks. We walk together. One mind and one heart. Acts of the Apostles. Di ba?
So, in a sense, are you
Now,
saying, Archbishop, that this is a moment of introspection? We're now looking at ourselves and the way we do things.
Yes, exactly. So, and that is very essential because there's no other way of doing it. Di ba, you can, Jesus walked with his disciples. Synodos. His disciples followed him. They were together. No? So, synod and synodality is in the genes of the church. If we stop doing it, and then parang sa Cebuano, maluya kita. We are weakened, no? Hindi tayo vigorous church. Okay. Now, you said, tell us about synodality in the context of the Catholic Church in the Philippines. Ano po ito? And how do we walk further down this path? You know, Bing, in my last address to the CBCP and touching on this coming synod, because we knew it was coming, I said, Bing, that in the Philippines, not to brag about it, not to be too proud about it, the whole way of doing in a synodal way, we have been doing it. The Second Plenary Council of the Philippines, just to give an example, well-chosen delegates from all sectors of society in the Philippines. That was in 1991. I can give you an example. Followed in 2001, there was a national consultation, a pastoral consultation on church renewal, NPCCR, to reflect on the PCP2. Again, it was very synodal. We had been having diocesan synods in many dioceses in the Philippines. So, it is not very foreign to us. God bless us in the Philippines. Mayroon ng engagement ang leadership with many sectors of our church people. But with this coming synod and the recent beginning of the pre-synodal consultations, what is so important? The Holy See has given us ample, very wise, very practical notes on how to improve the quality of our synodal activities in the Philippines.
If I get it right, in a sense, no, we've been doing, we're familiar here in the Philippines. We're familiar with the shape and form because we practice it. We've been doing this, pero ang improvement that we can get from the notes and from the advice of the Vatican is how to give it even more substance, so that the journeying together is really more substantive.
Not only at this time, but make it a way of life. So, talagang improve na ang ating sitting down or gathering, ang ating sin, so that'll be a way of life in a journey.
Yeah. Beautiful. Journeying together. All right.
This is Undercovered, the podcast with Bing Kimpo.
When you're journeying together, to me, the implication is there are differences or that there are separatednesses. From your perspective as CBCP president over the last few years, what are some of the things which tayo as Filipino Catholics must accept are differences amongst us, which we must bring to the fore and discuss?
I was reflecting on this item. I would proceed this way, that there are differences among us in a way that is very positive. Differences in a way of being a people with variety of gifts. So, separate, different in terms of giftedness. So, in other words, it is a kind of a set of differences or marks of differences or being very distinct, which is very positive. We should maintain. For example, one example I can give, the lumads, the IPs are different. But we don't want them to be, don't erase that difference. Keep that, because by keeping that difference or being very another, we become enriched. In other words, first instance I will answer, don't be afraid of variety. Don't afraid of differences. No? Cultures, we are enriched. We're a kind of, I have often used it, Filipino society, we're gifted, salamat sa Diyos, with a tapestry with different reds, colors, and richness. So that's one. That's one. I was in another diocese, young bishop na ako, and then this archbishop told me that, from where are you, Valles? Davao ako, archbishop, but I'm really pure bola, no? When we think of mga Bisayas, taga Bohol, taga Cebu, we think of music. Talaga, you are seen as you sing, you have music in your blood. I said, wow, it was said in such a way that you are different. You stand out with that gift. But we become richer as Filipinos with that gift. I'll go back to the IPs. You're giving me time. Oh, if you come to know the IPs, they have such a nose, a smell, a touch of nature that we have lost. So to be close to the IPs, and allowing them to be IPs without, your attitude ng mga lumad, mga IPs, but if you truly respect them and allow them to be IPs, we will learn how to deal with nature. Okay, so differences, mga distinct characters, lahi magkaiba, but very positive. But as you ask, also there are differences which must be bridged. Differences which are unwanted. Poverty, access to education, access to healthcare, differences in mga attitudes, attitudes na more unaccepting, mga biases. So, yan ang to deal with. No? Differences which are negative, which should not be there, and we try to, for example, inter-religious dialogue, differences which have created conflict and tension, that should not be there. Oh, it would be nice to see Muslims practicing truly as Muslims, side by side with Christian faith. So, my welcome natural variety differences, but there are differences which must be bridged. And synodality would help us greatly.
That's a fantastic way of looking at it. No, we tend to see differences as things that should be bridged, but really,
yes,
but
yes,
not all.
yes.
There are differences. There are gaps that must be bridged, but there are differences that must be allowed to flourish on their own, because they are what give us variety, and these are things which allow us to be richer.
The church, since the beginning, became journeyed. There's a Peter, fisherman. There's a tax collector, Matthew. There's a sophisticated Saint Paul, a well-educated Jew. There's a Peter, a raw fisherman. So, but we journey together.
This is Undercovered, the podcast with Bing
The
Kimpo.
preparatory document of the Synod makes mention of COVID, the pandemic, as having, and I quote, momentarily revived the sense that we are a global community, all in the same boat, where one person's problems are the problems of all. So it goes, once more, we realize that no one is saved alone. We can only be saved together. Yet at the same time, the pandemic has also made the already existing inequalities and iniquities explode. Humanity seems increasingly shaken by processes of massification and fragmentation. Parang napakalalim nun, Archbishop. What are your thoughts on this as these relate to the Philippines?
What is described there cannot be very far from the actual situation sa Philippines, which is also, by and large, the situations of most parts of the world, and not seen well lang because they have material resources, but the pandemic has really shown us that situation where one whole community, one whole family. Now, in the context of the Philippines, related to the call of this coming synod, number one guidance in the preparatory document, the one that you read is in the preparatory document, telling us as you approach the synod, and of course, here in the Philippines, in the context of what you said, a COVID-19 pandemic, the number one parang item to keep in mind is that the call to journey together, the journeying companions. One thing, it is a journey of everyone. It says here, further explanation, in the church and in society, as journeying together, we are side by side on the same road. We cannot claim that we have other roads. Actually, humanity has one road. Keep that in mind. And then, in your local church, whereas, in your local church, in Davao, in Cebu, in Manila, in Tuguegarao, no? In your local church, who are the ones journeying together? Sa pandemic, there are those who can't even afford some fare for the tricycle. Those who are not, who don't have Wi-Fi for online masses, because their concern is food for lunch. So you can multiply that. So, who are the ones journeying together? Whom do you consider as part of this journey? For example, who would like to sit down as bishop and listen to somebody who would say meekly, not insulting, but perhaps being meekly, Sir, Monsignor, sa totoo lang, we have not felt your presence. You're asking us to journey together. In all honesty, malayo ang simbahan. Who would like to listen to that? Come to think of it. Not insulting, but you allow them to speak out. You know, allow me to continue. When we say our church, who is part of it? Who is asking us to journey together? Now, who is asking us? I must admit, at one time when I was young, ano yung expression sa English? Cocky sure. But when you grow old, sa Bisaya, pakinsa makabalis, to us to journey. Wala. Through the years, if by yourself, your own person, you are weak. But you are sent. You are sent. The one who is asking us to journey together is a greater person. The greatest, in fact. But if we cannot inspire our people to look up to that calling us, parang calling the baton, the voice, keep going, then the journey is extremely difficult. Now, who are the road companions, including those outside the ecclesial perimeter? Including those outside the ecclesial parameter. What persons or groups are left on the margins, expressly or in fact? This is triggered by your question of pandemic. Very nice ang pandemic in a sense, because as you said, it has made us, forced us to see that we are one global community. You know, I will close this being by personal experience. Nag-lockdown sa bahay. Kami, lockdown bahay. Pero, honestly, 3 full meals a day si Archbishop and my companions. But in the middle of this 14-day lockdown, kami dito, it came to me, ako may 3 meals a day, but sigurado ako sa Davao, pag may mga families na mag-lockdown ang barangay, that they would think of lunch and dinner with great anxiety. So, sinong kasama ko sa journey? And that is the grace of this pandemic, to think sino ang kalakbay natin sa lakbay sa buhay.
This is Undercovered, the podcast with Bing Kimpo.
Archbishop, the diocesan synodal process has just started. What do you want to see from each of our local, the Philippine churches, the Philippine dioceses, the Philippine parishes? What do you want to see from each of us now? How can we make sure that the different, the marginalized, the less heard, those who are anxious about the next meals, how can we be sure that all of these different groups are heard?
This coming synod has caught our attention because instead of the regular every 3 years, the Holy Father made the preparatory period longer, starting 2021, and then the actual Assembly of Bishops or the Synod of Bishops would be in October of 2023. Sa Philippines, up to February 11, that is for the diocesan consultations. Diyan ang laro, diyan ang activity. Now, from February 11 to April is the national consultation. From October 17, ang activity would be in the archdioceses and dioceses, mga parokya, sectors, etc. And then you produce a report of that and submit that to the CBCP on February 11. February 11, all the results will be collated, ready for a national activity of consultation, which would be on March 7, 8, and 9. National, probably Manila, by Zoom, I don't know yet. And then after that, ang result ng assembly consultation ng March 7, 8, and 9, then a few weeks, by April of next year, submit na sa Roma ang results. So, with this being, we are given two important documents, sources. One you mentioned already, the preparatory document, I call shortcut PD, and the Vadimecum. In this guide, beautifully made, we are given very good practical directions on how to do the consultations. So, your question, yung marginalized are heard, the different are heard, it is for the bishop especially to see to it that the mechanism is established down below. But make no mistake, it is very clear, you are correct in your question, that the church, as I said earlier, kasama sa journey, those who are in the perimeter, those who are not only in the perimeter but about to be left in the journey, make sure that you reach out to them. Example, big, concrete, Davao ito na. Some prep namin to do this, nagawa kami ng the actual sitting down consultation sa mga communities, mga BECs o GKK sa Mindanao. Standard, no? Yun lang. Isang pare nag-raise ang hand siya. Archbishop, we're planning here in the parish to consult groups which are not, we are not sure, Katoliko sila. Parang walang religious mark sila. How about consulting our non-Catholic friends? I was not totally shocked, pero tama pala. So, that's an example of what you said. My guide sa Vatican, but also we're given a leeway to be creative and to be in touch with the realities, and then you react pastorally to make sure that there is synodality. And also being, the Vatican also has expressly said, no, that it is not a consultation that very interested in reports, but we're interested in the process, in the impact itself. And then it said, it is not just an event, but also a process. So therefore, without diminishing the importance of that final synthesis report, we are also giving importance to the whole flavor itself, that when the report is sent, the way I would describe it being is that when the report is sent, sana, I pray to the Lord, that we feel that now we are connected to the church. So, not only an event in Rome, a final consultation, but a process of being church on the ground.
This is Undercovered, the podcast with Bing Kimpo.
Much of local diocesan work will take place in the same year, next year, that we are observing belatedly 500 years of Christianity. Of course, diba, the church decided to move late a bit itong celebration ng 500 years of Christianity in the country. A celebration whose theme is gifted to give. And that really is aligned with the preparatory document of the Synod, when it stresses that our journey together is in fact what most effectively enacts and manifests the nature of the Church as the pilgrim and missionary people of God. In a sense, tahe, and it ties in quite nicely and quite fittingly. Any thoughts on this, Archbishop?
Thank you. That's nice that you have brought back into the whole scenario our still current commemoration of the 500th year of Christianity, or 500 years of Christianity in the country. The culmination, by the way, still is coming in the month of April next year. Ang ending of this Great Jubilee year. Now, with that as a background, since the beginning, noong we were introduced to the faith, maybe it is in the character of the Filipinos being that faith is very communitarian. That faith is in the family. Yan ang sa barangay, sa katilingban, sa sambayanan. So it is, salamat sa Diyos, very Filipino. So I would say that giftedness of faith has been, yes, a personal commitment, an individual yes to the Lord, very true. But quickly, at the same time, it is very communitarian. It's very church. It's that faith is not my journey alone, but my journey with my tatay, my nanay, with my clan, with my community. This synod would greatly complement in strengthening, in nourishing the Filipino faith. I would say this is grace. Faith will be strengthened by being a faith lived in a synodal church. It will be a meaningful faith, and not only that, if that faith is nourished, it becomes very healthy, it grows within the journeying together, then we would also see that, like of old, 500 years ago, we would fully realize that we cannot keep this faith to ourselves. It must be constantly offered as an inspiration to those kasama sa journey, a sense of mission, gifted to give. It becomes such a treasure. According to Karnatagli recently, he said, if you keep that faith, you don't use it as a gift to others in the journey, kasama sa lakbay, it will become stale. It will not remain alive.
This is Undercovered, the podcast with Bing Kimpo.
Archbishop, basta lang kay message lang sa mga katauhan to end lang.
I think this will be one of the last that I'll be airing this way as president of the CBCP. But I'd like to thank you for this opportunity because self-confession, I'm not much of a public speaker. No? I'm 70 years old, but that's not one of my gifts. But salamat sa Diyos, Bing. Salamat because I know I have something inside, but I'm forced in a healthy way to articulate things, to share things which are part of my life. And whether you agree or not, this is only done in the spirit of the Synod. That I'm surfacing things to share with you, and hopefully you can see things that would help you in your faith, to see your giftedness in the midst of the pandemic, yes, but nevertheless, it is a gift, it is a light, it is a power, which is not yours, but the source is greater and most wonderful, and we can be sure that that gift that we treasure and consider as really giftedness to us, we are also confident to day in and day out, recognized or not, continue to share that along the way because together we are in this journey to the kingdom of God. Maraming salamat po.
This is Undercovered, the podcast with Bing Kimpo.